Reflections. I read something that I want to share with you and tie it to a life that relates to all of us. The piece said, to understand life, we have to visit 3 places: a hospital, a prison, and a cemetery. A hospital so we can see how precious health is, how important it is, and how thankful we should be for having it. A prison to see how priceless freedom is and how miserable it is to be locked up in a cell. And a cemetery to see how short and unpredictable life is, and that the ground we walk upon will be our roof one day. I had a distress message from a friend today. Well, honestly is an acquaintance. And he wanted me to co-sign on the house mortgage so that he won't lose his house in this divorce. This is the same friend that I spoke about earlier. And that his wife can get the equity and he gets to keep his house, and then in a few years, he'll be back above water again. I politely declined. I said, I don't want to get financially involved, not because I don't trust you as an acquaintance, but because of circumstances that might happen that would be beyond our control. I've made videos about not getting financially involved at all with a person that you think, let me stress, that you think you love. Mixing finances with your romantic partner is a mistake that extreme fools will get involved with. I read somewhere a long time ago, I think I was less than 10 years old, that who is more stupid than the person who rides a motorcycle? And the answer was the person who sits behind him. I have repeated before countless times, and I will repeat again. Marriage in the West, legal marriage in the West, if you have any financial assets, now we're talking about financial, we're not even talking about the emotional, is a gamble which is not worth taking. Simply because the feelings that you have will wear off, but then everything else remains. All the financial ties, all the emotional ties, and if you have children, all of those ties. Mistakes that are undoable. Many men never recover from the ravages of the divorce settlements that they're forced to bear as a result of getting married in the West. One person I heard the extreme case in New York. He lost a building. You could look it up on Google. I don't remember the name, but he was a very wealthy executive or whatever. He had a building in downtown Manhattan, New York, which the court awarded to his wife. So he cancels the insurance, and on the midnight when the insurance cancels, he burns down the building. He engages in arson and burns down the building so that it won't go to his wife, because he was so powerless and pissed off at the courts. But there's an old Eastern saying, I always incorporate, mention Eastern sayings and translate it into English. It doesn't mean quite if it's broke, don't fix it. It means why engage in activities? Why enter into things that will bring you headaches when you don't have to? The saying literally translated into English means if you don't have a headache, don't put a wet rag on your forehead. But what it means, the essence of what it means is that why buy trouble for yourself? Why go into unnecessarily? The operating word here is unnecessarily. Why unnecessarily go into things that you cannot undo and that could have the potential to be your undoing? This is what I'm saying. Again, I repeat, I am not against being together with a woman if you're a man. I am not against companionship, enjoying women, carnal pleasures. all of those things, getting together, companionship, having a dinner. I am not against it. I do it all the time, pretty much on a weekly basis. But getting married in the West, given the laws now, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth the headache. It will be a challenge, and it will be those of you who've been through it, you know what I'm talking about. But it will be a struggle and a calamity that you will not have imagined in your wildest dreams. And that's just the financial part of it. I'm not even talking about the emotional heartache and the children involved and everything. It's just too painful. It's just too big a thing to deal with. And remember, many of you might disagree, but facts are facts. Religion aside, the actual marriage, the actual contract of marriage, which introduces an artificial business agreement into a companionship, into the desire to be with a romantic partner, was created by religion and then was put on turbocharge by some lawyers, some lawmakers, some judges, and basically lawyers, because judges are also lawyers, who did it for their own benefit. They didn't do it out of the goodness of their heart to provide, security and care for one party or another. They did it out of the benefit of themselves, for themselves, so that they would get the votes and everything, at the cost of hardworking men and sometimes hardworking women who have to write big checks to someone who did not work for it, did not deserve it, did not earn it, and should not be awarded. If, in closing, I say, if you got a woman who made half of the down payment for a home, and she's been paying, every single mortgages 50%, half of every single mortgage payment that she's been sharing, absolutely, she deserves 50%, absolutely, of the home. If she's been putting into it, absolutely she deserves it. And if you deny her, then you are a jerk. But for someone who marries someone, for 3-4 years, coming from zero and doing it in the back of her mind for that sole purpose, like an investment they're making, and from the beginning, that's what their incentive of getting into it to begin with. And then using the courts and the legal system to clean you out and then moving on to the next person. No, these people don't deserve it. So our only defense as men who have net worth, who are living in the West, our only defense is to protect ourselves by not getting legally married. As long as these rules are in place, which they are now, that's your only defense. And if you do it, despite knowing it, then look for the person who's guilty right in the mirror in front of you, my friends. All the best.